amino acids. So we will be learning the chemistry, some basic chemical aspects of proteins and amino acids. So at the end of this class, you people shall be able to define proteins, define amino acids, classify amino acids, recall structures of essential and non-essential amino acids, explain stereochemistry of amino acids, explain structure of proteins, primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary, and recall significance of proteins. Okay, so we will continue. So introduction. So proteins are among the most abundant organic molecules in the living systems. So they are diverse in structure and function than other classes of macromolecules. So they are having, like, there are many proteins. So our body is composed of a large amount of proteins. So it is among the three most abundant biomolecules inside the body. So that is carbohydrate, lipids and proteins. They do most of the work in cells and are required for the structure, function and regulation of body tissues and organs. And they are a large complex molecules made up of hundreds of thousands of small units called amino acids. So this is the exact definition of proteins. So proteins are large complex molecules and it is made up of only amino acids. And it contains many amino acids. It is a polymer of amino acids and it is a very huge molecule. In fact, it contains thousands of small units, that is called as amino acids. So these amino acids are attached to one another by a bond, by an covalent bond, which we quite specifically call it as peptide bond. Okay, so in long chain. So we will see what are these peptide bonds. So there are 20 different type of amino acids that will be present in the proteins that can be combined to make a protein in a different sequence. We will see what are those 20 amino acids. We will learn some of its chemistry also. So the sequence of amino acids determines each protein's unique three-dimensional structure and its specific function. So studying the structure of protein is little bit tricky because it is a very huge molecule and you need to study at a different level. We'll study the structure of proteins at 4 different levels. So that we will see. Amino acids are the group of organic compounds containing 2 functional groups. That is, it contains amino group and carboxylic acid group, carboxyl group, what we call. Okay, so that is why in combining these 2 names, it is called, they are called as amino acids. Okay, so the amino group is basic while the carboxyl group is acidic in nature. So it is having both basic and acidic character. So that is the uniqueness of this molecule, that is proteins and amino acids. So these are monomers that make up proteins. Okay, proteins are made up of only amino acids. Okay, that is also hundreds and thousands of amino acids will combine to form proteins. So a protein is made up of one or more linear chain of amino acids. Okay, each chain is called as polypeptides because it is these amino acids are linked to each other by peptide bonds. And a chain of amino acid is called as peptide chain, and more than one chain of amino acid is called as polypeptide. Okay, so there are 20 amino acids commonly found in proteins. So that we will look into, and please. So these amino acids are basically categorized into essential amino acids. So essential amino acids means, so these are the amino acids that are required to be taken in diet. So these are not synthesized our body. Okay, so there are there are 10 different essential amino acids. So we will name them: arginine, valine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, and tryptophan. Okay, so you have to remember the names of essential amino acids. It is very important, essential and non-essential. And non-essential amino acids means, so it is not that they are not significant, so they have equally good biological role, but they are not required to be taken in the form of diet, but they are biosynthesized inside our body. So they are called as non-essential amino acids. So we have 10 non-essential amino acids that are present in protein: glycine, alanine, serine, cysteine, aspartate, asparagine, glutamate, glutamine, tyrosine, and protein. Okay, so now we'll learn some chemistry of these essential and non-essential amino acids. Okay, so this is the general structure of amino acids. Amino acid consists of some important common features. Okay, so it consists of an carboxylic acid group, an amino acid group, and an alpha carbon. Why we call this as an alpha carbon is because, so this is the carbonyl carbon, so the functional group, the carbon next to the functional group is called as alpha carbon. So this is alpha carbon, and so the distinctiveness lies here, that is the R side chain. Okay, so the different amino acids are because of a the different substitution at this position. So we look into these 20 amino acids. So an amino acid consists of a central atom, so that is known as alpha carbon atom. So this is bonded to an amino group and an carboxylic group. Okay, so amino acids have, that is another group of atoms or an atom bonded to the central atom. So this is known as R group, and this determines the identity of amino acids. The R group determines the identity of amino acids. So the structure from one amino acid to other amino acids differ only at this position, the composition of atoms at this position. Okay. So at physiological pH, so the amino acid will be in the ionized state. Okay, so the amino group is typically, it will be in the protonated form. So this is a quaternary ammonium group. So you can see it is bonded to 4 different atoms, 1 carbon and 3 hydrogen. So that is why it is carrying a positive charge, because its lone pair of electrons are utilized to form the 4th bond. Okay, and the carboxylic acid group, COH group, will be present as a carboxyl group, and it carries a negative charge because it has transferred its proton to amino group. Okay, so this is very important property. So this makes it an amphoteric substance. Okay, so the classification of amino acid based on its side chain. So amino acid, the 20 standard amino acids found in protein structure, so they are divided into 7 distinct groups. So the first one is aliphatic amino acid, hydroxyl group containing amino acids based on its chemistry. Okay, third is sulfur containing amino acid, fourth one is acidic amino acid and their amides, and the fifth one is basic amino acids, sixth one is aromatic amino acid, and seventh is amino acids. Okay, so chemically, so these 20 amino acids can be categorized into 7 different groups or classes. So firstly, aliphatic amino acids, so these are monocarboxylic acids. They contain 1 amino group and 1 carboxylic acid group, and this group consists of most simple amino acids. So here you have glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine. Okay, so these are the amino acids that fall under the category of aliphatic amino acids. So this is the abbreviated form of glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, and isoleucine. So this you have to remember the abbreviated forms, because when we write protein structures, we will be representing the amino acid in this 3-letter nomenclature form. Okay, so glycine is an unsubstituted amino acid. This is the most basic amino acid. It contains hydrogen group at the R position. So it is small simple amino acid. So it is a non-essential amino acid. Okay, so and it is an allosteric inhibitor of glutathione synthetase. Okay, so the next thing is alanine. Alanine contains a methyl group at the R position. So it is non-essential amino acid, and it is also an allosteric inhibitor of glutathione synthase. And D-alanine is a component of bacterial cell wall, and B-alanine is found in pantothenic acid. Okay, Okay, so the next one is valine. Valine contains propyl chain. At R group, it is an essential amino acid, that is, it has to be taken in the form of diet. Aliphatic hydrophobic isopropyl side chain. It contains an isopropyl side chain attached to this, a 3-carbon chain. Leucine. Leucine contains an isobutane side chain. It is an essential amino acid. It contains isobutane side chain, in fact, so we need a correction over here. I'll correct it. Not isopropyl, it is isobutyl side chain. So leucine contains isobutyl side chain, so 4-carbon side chain. Okay, isoleucine, so it is an essential amino acid. It contains isobutyl side chain, but the difference is the arrangement of the atoms in the butyl side chain. Okay. So this is called as isoleucine. So it also contains isobutyl side chain. Okay. So then hydroxyl group containing amino acids. So serine, threonine, tyrosine. Okay, so these are the 3 amino acids. So this is the structure of serine. So you can see this. It contains hydroxymethylene group at the R position. So this is a non-essential amino acid. So it contains an alcoholic group. And this alcoholic group provides the site for phosphorylation, that is to add phosphate group for many proteins. Okay, so threonine, so it is an essential amino acid. Again, it contains an hydroxyl group here, so that is also one of the phosphorylation target. Okay, so the next class is sulfur containing amino acid, cysteine, methionine, cysteine and methionine. So cysteine contains sulfhydryl group over here at the R position, methylene sulfhydryl group. It is a non-essential amino acid. So this is a very important sulfur containing amino acid. So this is formed by condensation of 2 molecules of cysteine. Okay. Methionine. So methionine contains sulfur group in between an aliphatic carbon chain. So it is an essential amino acid. It has to be taken in the form of diet. So methionine in genetic code, methionine is coded by the codon start codons AUG. So this is where the protein synthesis starts. Okay, so methionine is the first amino acid that is used to build a protein chain. In fact, proteins are synthesized like proteins, as I said, they are polymers of amino acids. So how these amino acids are arranged? So how the sequence of amino acids basically defines like what type of protein it forms. So in what sequence the amino acids have to be added in the protein polypeptide chain, so that information is carried by DNA. Okay, so during protein synthesis, so the DNA will carry the information in the form of codons. Okay, so the first the initiation codon, the initiating codon, the codon that initiates protein synthesis is called a start codon. So AUG. So AUG means it will code for methionine. So that is to say, methionine is the first amino acid that is used to build a protein chain. Okay. Acidic amino acids and their amides. So the next class, 4th class, aspartic acid, aspargine, glutamic acid, glutamine. Okay, so you have this 3-letter abbreviation. So it is very, very important. You have to remember. Okay, so this is the aspartic acid. Aspartic carries carboxylic acid group over here. So this is a non-essential amino acid. Aspartic acid is capable of forming amino that is ionic bonds. So that is involved in the, and it is involved in various biochemical reactions. Glutamic acid contains carboxylic group at the R position. Okay, and it is a non-essential amino acid, and it is a vitamin K2. It plays an important role in stabilizing vitamin K2. Okay, so vitamin K2 carboxylate glutamate residues in certain proteins to give carboxyglutamate, and this plays a very important role in blood clotting by binding with the calcium. Okay, asparagine contains an carboxyl amide. Okay, amide group. It is a non-essential amino acid. Glutamine is also an amide, and it is also a non-essential amino acid. It plays a very important role in transamination reaction. Ultimately, glutamate is what is formed. That is, glutamine is what is formed as an end product before releasing amine group in protein metabolism. So basic amino acids: lysine, arginine, histidine. Okay, lysine. So it is an essential amino acid. So basic amino acids contain amino groups. One extra amino group, acidic amino acid, contains carboxylic acid group or amide groups. So basic amino acid group contains two amino groups. So here one amino group is present at the R position. So it is an essential amino acid. So they are highly polar molecules. Okay, arginine contains two amino acid at the R position. Okay, so it is an imine because it contains C double bond N group. It is a semi-essential amino acid, that is partly it is synthesized but not sufficiently, so it has to be consumed in the diet. It contains guanidino group. So this part of the molecule is called as guanidine, and it is having only one carboxylic acid group. Okay, it is an intermediate in urea cycle, very important cycle, metabolic pathway in amino acid metabolism, and it is a precursor for nitric oxide. Histidine contains pyrazole ring. It is a semi-essential amino acid. Sorry, it contains imidazole ring. Okay, aromatic amino acids. So phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan. So here phenylalanine. So you have the phenyl group. Over here, aromatic amino acids contain aromatic rings. Either it can be benzene ring or aromatic heterocyclic ring. So here it contains a simple benzyl group. So it is an essential amino acid. It contains benzene ring. Tyrosine. So tyrosine contains phenol ring. So it is a non-essential amino acid. The hydroxyl group of tyrosine imparts slight polarity to the side chain. Okay, so this is the side. Again, wherever the hydroxyl group is present, it helps in phosphorylation during metabolism. So tryptophan contains indole nucleus. Okay, it is an essential amino acid. It contains an heterocyclic ring. It contains indole ring. Amino acids, it contains imine ring. So if you remove this proton, it becomes C double bond NH-COOH. So that is why it is called as amino acids. Proline contains pyrrolidine ring, so an heterocyclic ring. Okay, so this is a very unique amino acid because it contains amino group. Okay, so this is about different classes based on its chemical properties. So there are 7 classes of amino acids based on its chemistry. So classification of amino acids based on its polarity. Okay, so amino acids are classified into 4 groups based on their polarity. That is non-polar amino acids where the charge is equally distributed. So these are also referred to as hydrophobic. They are highly lipid soluble. So they have no charge on R group. They do not carry charged groups. Okay, so here you have non-polar amino acids. Alanine contains a methyl group. Isoleucine also contains an aliphatic side chain. Leucine contains aliphatic side chain. Methionine, so it also does not carry much of charge. Phenylalanine, tryptophan, tyrosine, and valine. Okay, so if you look at these molecules, so these almost all these molecules contain non-polar side chains which are hydrophobic in nature. Okay. So further, polar amino acids. So these amino acids as such carry no charge on the R group. They, however, possess groups such as hydroxyl, sulfahydryl, and amide, and participate in hydrogen bonding in the protein structure. They carry polarity, but they will not be in the ionized state. Like serine carries OH group. Threonine is carrying OH group, and asparagine is carrying amide group. Glutamine is carrying amide. Okay, so these are like they are polar amino acids, but they do not carry any charge. Similarly, you have cysteine, so it contains SH group. Selenocysteine, it contains selenium group. Glycine, it contains methyl group, and proline, it contains glycine contains amino group, and proline contains pyrrolidine. Okay. So polar amino acids with positive R group. Okay, where the substitution carries positive charge. Okay, arginine carries positive charge over here. So the amino group is quaternary in position. Histidine also carries one amino group which is quaternary, and it carries positive charge. The lysine also contains an ammonium group which is quaternary ammonium group. It carries positive charge. Okay, similarly, polar amino acids with negative R groups. So the dicarboxylic monoamino aspartic acid and glutamic acid are considered. So here, so the carboxylic acid will be in the, so it contains two carboxylic acids. So these molecules contain two carboxylic acid. One of the carboxylic acid will undergo ionization, and that will be present. That will be carrying the negative charge. Example is aspartic acid and glutamic acid. Okay, so here one of the unique aspects of that R group is, that is the properties of the side chain, that is the R group, will determine an amino acid's chemical behavior, how they are going to behave, whether they will be hydrophobic or hydrophilic. If they carry charge, they will be hydrophilic, or if they are polar, if they carry polar groups, they will be hydrophilic. If they carry non-polar group, they will be hydrophobic. Again, their pharmacological properties and biological behavior and the role inside our body system, again, it all depends on this R side chain. Somehow, so they have the basic backbone same, that is NH2CH and bond COOH is the basic backbone, so that all amino acids carry. So their uniqueness lies in the R substitution. Okay, so like what will be present over here, so that is what defines the physical, chemical and biological property of that amino acids. Okay. One more important property that you should know is its stereochemistry. So the optical isomers of amino acids. Amino acids, so if a carbon is attached to 4 different groups, so it is asymmetric. So it can exhibit stereoisomerism. So this thing I believe that you know. So the amino acids possess 4 different groups. Okay. So that is the substitution group, hydrogen, carboxylic acid and ammonium. So these are held by an alpha carbon atom. Okay. So here, so if these 4 groups are different, then the carbon becomes chiral. So that is why it can exhibit stereoisomerism and mainly optical isomerism. So it carries an chiral carbon. So it can exhibit, it can have enantiomers, which are mirror images. So the proteins are composed of mainly L-alpha amino acid. What does this L denotes mainly? So we look into that. So this L-glyceraldehyde and D-glyceraldehyde. So the position of this hydroxyl group defines the stereoisomerism, that is the position of this hydroxyl group defines the carbohydrates. Okay, so this is how L and D naming system emerged. In case of amino acids, it is the position of ammonium group that is attached to alpha carbon atom. So what defines L and D naming system in amino acid? If the ammonium group attached to alpha carbon is on the left side, so then it is called as L-alanine. If the ammonium group that is attached to alpha carbon is on the right side, then it is called as D-alanine. Okay, so and L and D is not having any correlation with its optical activity, whether it is going to rotate the light towards the left or right. This is not denoted by L and D. In fact, it denotes only the spatial position or orientation of this ammonium group. Okay, so its optical property will be defined by plus and minus. Plus denotes the right, it is dextrorotatory. Minus denotes it is levorotatory. Okay. So next important aspect about amino acids is its Zwitter ion property or dipolar ion property. So we know that amino acids contain both basic and acidic group, amino group and carboxylic acid group. That makes it an dipolar ion. So we'll see what is an Zwitter ion. Zwitter ion is an hybrid molecule containing positive and negative ionic group. Okay. So the amino acids rarely exist in a neutral form with free carboxylic and amino groups. In strongly acidic pH, the amino acid is positively charged, and in alkaline pH, the amino acid is negatively charged. Okay, each amino acid is having a characteristic pH at which it carries both positive and negative charge. So and when an amino acid carries both positive and negative charge, that amino acid is called as a Zwitter ion. Zwitter ion means so a molecule which is carrying both positive and negative charge. And the pH at which an amino acid exists as Zwitter ion is called as isoelectric pH. That is, it is defined as the pH at which a molecule exists as an Zwitter ion or dipolar ion. And so since it is carrying equal amount of positive and negative charge, the net charge becomes 0. Okay, so it will not carry any net charge. Okay, so this is about Zwitter ion. So the next thing is about peptide bonds. How amino acids form a bond with its other amino acid. Okay, so each protein cell is made up of one or more polypeptide chains. So these proteins are made up of only amino acids. So amino acids form a bond with each other, and each of these polypeptide chain is made up of only amino acids. And amino acids are linked together in a specific order. So the order in which these amino acids are arranged or linked defines what type of protein it will be. Okay, so the property of polypeptide chain is and its function is defined by the order in which these amino acids are arranged or linked to each other. If you are going to change the order, then it will lose its property, or then again it will become its function will be very, very different. Okay, so the amino acid of a polypeptide is attached to a neighboring amino acid by covalent bond known as a peptide bonds. Okay, so these are formed by dehydration synthesis. So what we call it as condensation reaction. It will lose a molecule of water and it will form a bond. Okay, so during protein synthesis, what happens is the carboxyl group of amino acid. So the carboxylic acid group of one of the amino acid will react with amino group of the other amino acid. So it will lose water molecule and it will form a bond with carbon of carboxylic acid group of one amino acid and nitrogen of amino group of other amino acid. So this bond is called as peptide bond. Okay, so this bond is called as peptide bond. Okay. So in this manner, so here it has formed one peptide bond. Again, this will react with one more amino acid. It will form one more peptide bond. Again, this will react with one more amino acid, and it will form one more peptide bond. Okay. So based on, so a polypeptide chain has two ends chemically. Okay, so which is distinct from each other. One end of the polypeptide chain will have free amino group, so it is called as N-terminus or amino terminus or N-terminal or amino terminal, and the other end of the polypeptide chain will have free carboxylic acid group, so that is called as C-terminus or carboxylic acid terminus or a C terminal or carboxylic acid terminal. Okay. So the shape of a protein is very important to its structure. So to understand how a protein gets its final shape or conformation, because it is a very huge molecule, so it has to accommodate in a very small space. In spite of being a very huge molecule, it is not visible to our naked eyes. It is microscopic, so it folds in a very small space and it performs very important functions. Its function depends on how exactly it will form its shape, how it folds such a huge molecule. So we need to understand, or since it is a very huge molecule, we study the structure of protein in 4 different levels. Like we will study primary structure of protein, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure. We will look into these 4. We will study the protein structure now at these 4 different levels. Okay. So the primary structure, so this is the primary structure. So the first level, or the first thing what we are going to do when we are studying the structure of a protein is, so we are going to study the linear sequence of amino acids. Okay, so that is encoded by DNA, like in what sequence these amino acids are joined. So here you have the polypeptide chain. So here you have 2 chains, 2 polypeptide chain, A chain and B chain. Okay, so here we will be focusing on only like what is the order of these amino acids in the polypeptide chain. So here you have glycine, isoleucine, valine, glutamate, glutamine, cysteine, alanine, serine, valine, cysteine, serine, leucine, tyrosine, glutamine, leucine, glutamate, that is aspartate, tyrosine, cysteine and aspartate. Okay, so this is one of the polypeptide chain. Okay, so here you can look into this. So here it contains 2 sulfur containing amino acids. So these are linked to each other by sulfur hydryl bonds. Again, these sulfur containing amino acids are linked. Again, these sulfur containing amino acids are linked. Correct. So here we are focusing only on the sequence of amino acids. Okay. So the protein backbone, what is protein backbone? In protein backbone means, so in the amino acids are joined to each other by the carbon and nitrogen of 2 different amino acids. Correct. So the protein backbone means it is excluding the R groups. So if you are going to exclude the R groups in a polypeptide chain, so the remaining chain is called as protein backbone. Protein backbone contains only carbon, nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, so the linked series of carbon, nitrogen and oxygen atom make up the protein backbone. We are not bothered about what R group it is containing. R group plays a very major role in protein structure, but that comes at the next level. Okay. Secondary structure, the most common type of secondary structures are there are 2 secondary structures. One is alpha helix and another one is beta pleated sheet. Okay, both the structures are held in shape by hydrogen bonds which form between the carbonyl oxygen of one amino acid and the hydrogen of another amino acid. Okay. So this is about alpha helix. So in an alpha helix, the carbonyl carbon of one amino acid will form an hydrogen bond with the hydrogen of amino group of an other amino acid. Okay, so this will be like 4 down the chain. So so this is the first amino acid. So again there will be one more amino acid here, one more, second, third, and this is the 4th amino acid. So the first amino acid will form hydrogen bond with the 4th amino acid. Okay, so the carbonyl group, amino group of first amino acid is forming hydrogen bond with carbonyl group of the 4th amino acid. Again, this amino group of this 4th amino acid will form an hydrogen bond with 8th amino acid, carbonyl group of 8th amino acid. In this way, it forms a link. When this forms a link, what happens is So this type of hydrogen bonding will pull the polypeptide chain in an helical structure. It will form an helical structure. Okay. So this will be in an polypeptide chain in a protein will always form a right-handed helix. So that is why it is called as alpha helix. Okay. So this resembles a curved ribbon with each turn of helix will contain 3.6 amino acid. That is the average. So the R group of amino acids will stick outward from the alpha helix. So the alpha helix structure contains only the polypeptide backbone or protein backbone or amino acid backbone, and the R groups will be hanging outside the alpha helix. Okay. So the next advanced stage of this alpha helix is beta pleated sheets. Okay, so the beta plated sheet is a series of anti-parallel chains of covalently linked amino acid. So here you have one chain, so this will form an alpha helix, and again it will link with one more alpha helix, and so this will again link with one more alpha helix. So these are covalently linked amino acid with so that is each alpha helix is linked with other alpha helix by hydrogen bond from tail to head and also laterally. Okay, so like this. So the R groups will form hydrogen bond with each other in this manner. Okay, so the regular folding of each amino acid chain leads to regular pleated pattern across chain. So this pattern is called as pleated pattern, and the R groups are directed perpendicularly to the plane of the sheet. Okay, so the R groups will be directed perpendicularly such that these R groups can form different hydrogen bonds and sulfur bonds, and this will also create stability, and this will also help in creating beta pleated sheets. Okay. So in the next important part of this protein structure is tertiary structure. Okay. So the overall three-dimensional structure of a polypeptide is called as the tertiary structure. So the tertiary structure is primarily due to interactions between R group of amino acids that make up the protein. Okay. So R group with charges, with the like charges, they are going to repel each other. So that makes those groups to stay apart. So that creates gaps or ridges, while those with opposite charges, so they create an amine that is ionic bond, and that brings the peptide chains closer, and polar R groups can form hydrogen bonds and other dipole interactions, so that brings the chains closer. So that is how the shape will change in certain places. The beta pleated sheets, so we'll have the alpha helix will be very near, in certain places it will be far away. Okay, so this is mainly because of difference in its properties of R groups. Okay, so due to hydrophobic interaction, amino acids with non-polar hydrophobic R groups cluster together on the inside of the protein. So the inside part of the protein will be clustered with non-polar groups, and the outside part of the protein will be clustered with polar groups. Okay. So the disulfide covalent linkages between the sulfur containing side chains of cysteine. Okay, so they form a disulfide bond, and they are much stronger than other type of bonds that contribute to the tertiary structure. So they create a lot of stability, and they act like molecular safety pins. So they act like safety pins. They provide stability, and they keep the molecule in a proper shape. Okay, so here you have the tertiary structure. So the R groups, so here the R groups are forming ionic bond. So because these two side chains carrying positive and negative charge. So here hydrophobic interactions again, so they stay together. Disulfide linkage, the strongest linkage in the tertiary structure, and the hydrogen bond between two side chains. So these are the factors that hold the polypeptide or protein structure in the three-dimensional shape, in a proper shape. Finally, the final structure of these amino acids is a quaternary structure. Many proteins are made up of single polypeptide chain and have only 3 levels of structures. Okay, and some proteins are made up of multiple polypeptide chain. So these are also known as subunits. and when these subunits come together, they give the protein its quaternary structure. Okay, so here two or more polypeptide chain come together to form a functional molecule. Okay, so it contains several subunits of polypeptide chains. So this is an example of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin contains 4 polypeptide chains. So these 4 polypeptide chain coordinate with each other to carry the oxygen from to the different parts of the body. Okay, so in summary to this, so amino acids, primary protein structure of amino acid means, so we are going to study only the sequence, in what sequence these amino acids are arranged. And secondary protein structure, we are going to study like how this is forming an alpha helix, helical structure, and then how this is forming beta pleated sheets. Okay. So, and then the tertiary protein structure. So here we are going to study the 3-dimensional folding pattern. So how exactly this polypeptide chain folds in the three-dimensional structure. So the R groups play a very important role here. And finally, if a protein is containing more than one polypeptide chain, so we are going to study their 3-dimensional structure, how they are going to coordinate with each other. So that is quaternary protein structure. Okay. So now, what are the functions of these proteins inside our body? So the first thing is, so your insulin, the hormone insulin is a protein. Okay. So here you have the insulin. So they act as carriers of glucose molecules. Okay, and they help in communicating with the cell to allow glucose molecules. So that is, it will have insulin receptor where it can bind and help to open the glucose channel inside on the cell membrane and allow glucose inside the cell. So that is, they help in communication. Proteins help in communication system. So most of the 99.99% of the enzymes are proteins. So here you have alpha amylase protein, 3-dimensional structure of alpha amylase protein. Okay, so it helps in digestion of starches in our saliva. It binds to a carbohydrate chain and breaks it into smaller pieces with 2 or 3 glucose units. Okay, so these also help in transport of molecules, like for example calcium ion channels are made up of proteins. So they help in transporting calcium ions, and many proteins act as a storage. Like for example, ferritin is a protein, it stores iron. So it stores iron in the non-toxic form mainly. So if iron level exceeds in the blood, so it can be toxic. So to prevent the toxicity, iron is stored in a protein known as ferritin. Okay, so and our physical structure is so proteins play a very important role in building our physical structure. Collagen forms a strong, for example, collagen, it forms a strong triple helix that is used throughout the body for structural support. Okay. So how proteins are represented? In fact, proteins are huge molecules. You can't write individual structures of individual amino acids. So at a research level, so these are represented as a space filling diagram or ribbons. Different colored ribbons represent different type of polypeptide chains, and they can also be represented as a surface diagrams. Okay, so the space filling diagram shows all atoms that are making up these proteins. So the ribbon or cartoon diagram shows organization of the protein backbone and highlights alpha helix, and the surface representation shows the areas that are accessible to water. The polar area and non-polar area is what it shows. Okay, so these are the references in summaries to today's class. So proteins are polymers of amino acids. So they contain thousands of amino acids which are linked to each other by peptide bonds, and these contain polypeptide chains. Protein is an polypeptide. Okay, and so around 20 different amino acids make up the polypeptide chain. So based on its nutritional requirement, they are categorized into essential and non-essential. Based on its chemical properties, they are categorized into 7 different groups, and it can also be categorized based on the charges as polar and non-polar, and different type of polar groups that are attached onto the amino acids. And mainly, to summarize or to conclude this introduction, so your proteins is nothing but amino acids. When you are studying the metabolism of individual proteins, it is the metabolism of individual amino acids. That is, we are studying the metabolism of proteins. Proteins, while catabolism, so what they do is they release individual amino acids into the bloodstream, which are further metabolized. Okay, so in your next class, we will look into different metabolic reactions that are involved in protein and amino acid metabolism. So the learning tip today, so anybody know about this triangle? What do you call this triangle? Anyone know the name of this triangle? Can anybody name this triangle? Hello, Bilal. Bilal?
Yes, sir.
Can you name this triangle? What is this triangle? Anusha? Yeah, this triangle, what do you call? Anybody know? So this triangle is mainly called as Bloom's triangle, a very beautiful triangle. So this Bloom's, there is a theory on learning called as Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so this triangle shows the different level of learning. Okay, so the first level of learning is remembering. You should be familiar with the terms like recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. And the next thing is understanding, comprehending. So that is next higher level of learning. Okay, making the sense of what you have learned, correlating the things. And the third thing is applying. So like use the knowledge gained in new ways. Fourth thing is once you achieve this thing and further you practice, so you'll be able to break the concept into parts and understand how each part is related to other part, that is analyzing. So for the next level is evaluating, making judgments based on the set of guidelines, and finally, so you creating. So this is the goal that you have to achieve. Okay, so you utilizing your knowledge in innovative way and in different situations. So if a person is achieving this level of learning, so then his aptitude level will be higher. Okay, so why many students score very well in theory examination, but they fail to perform in MCQs, which tests the aptitude is. So many students remain here remembering. Okay, so you memorize very well, but you fail to understand the concept, then apply the concept, then analyze the concept, evaluate, and then create. Okay, so if you are learning up to this level, so where your understanding is your understanding and practice is such that you are able to apply the knowledge in different situations, then your aptitude will be very high. If your aptitude is very high in that particular subject area, you will be able to succeed even in the aptitude tests and MCQs. Okay, so this is your today's learning tip, and whatever you learn with the what? Learn with the smile. Okay, happy learning. Enjoy your learning. If you have any doubts?